2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another WPAMA. We are so happy that you are here. Welcome. This is a weekly series hosted by WP Buffs. My name is Allie Nimmons. I'm going to be your host for this episode. In case you didn't know, every week we round up your questions and on a specific topic, and then we sit down with a really cool person to answer them live together. If you're just tuning in and you have any questions about this topic, please leave them in the chat here on YouTube. And if we have time, we will get to those after the user submitted questions. We do also do a random giveaway at the end of every episode. This week, we are giving away one free item out of the WP Buffs store, which is store.wpbuffs.com. So make sure you stay to the end to see if you have been chosen to win something. Only people who have signed up with us via email prior to this can win today. So go to wpbuffs.com/WP-AMA-series and sign up, and you might be entered to win in a future episode. This episode will be here to watch on our YouTube channel if you've missed any portion of it or if you arrived late, and we will be adding captions within the next 24 hours. So if you need or want captions on this video, they should be available by tomorrow. Alrighty, so this week, answering questions about starting a diverse agency is my friend, Tracy Levesque. Welcome, Tracy.
Hi.
So tell us a little bit, before we dive into these questions, tell us a little bit about what it is that you do, a little bit about your agency, all of that kind of fun stuff.
Sure. My name is Tracy Levesque, and I co-own an agency called Yikes in the lovely Fishtown neighborhood of Philadelphia. And I co-own it with my wife. We started it back in the 90s, but we pivoted to doing WordPress only in about 2010-ish, 2013-ish. Which time anymore? I don't even know. And back in the day, we started the agency with a third partner, another woman, but then after 5 years, she left to do like massage therapy or something. So my wife and I own it now, and we are certified women-owned company and a certified LGBT business enterprise. So we have 2 official certifications. In addition to that, we're also a B Corporation. And what a B Corporation is, it's like a certification process for sustainability for a company. So if you think of LEED certification for a building, where, okay, well, you did X, Y, and Z, and you gained all these points, and now your building is certified as sustainable. It's the same kind of thing for a business. So they take a look at it's a really rigorous process. It's not easy to get B Corp certification. And it's a point system. And so if you make a certain number of points, then you're certified. And in addition to, and also the main philosophy of B Corp certification to sustainable business is that the triple bottom line, which is people, planet, profit instead of just profit. So from everything to, we have solar panels on the roof to, we have really liberal flex time and vacation time and benefits. And we also have like green cleaning products in our office, things like that. And in addition to that, the fourth thing we're a benefit corporation, which is a legal corporate entity in Pennsylvania. So it has to be written into your corporate bylaws, sustainability. And we were one of the very first Pennsylvania corporations to do that in a big fun ceremony.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Well,
so
congratulations.
From the outset of the 3 of us starting this company, we've always had sustainability in mind and community and wanting to, a mission of doing good.
Wonderful. That's all so cool. And yeah, congratulations retroactively on all of those things that you have worked to accomplish and done all those steps, completed all those steps to get those certifications. That's incredible.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so we are going to go ahead and dive into the very first question. Oh, we have 2 people watching, Amy and Cami. Have wasted us in the chat. Alrighty, so the first question that we have for you: what is the difference between starting an agency and starting like a business or a company? What's unique about an agency, and was there any, I guess, maybe processes that are different than just starting kind of a regular business?
Gosh, I don't even know how to understand the question completely, because like, it's like a genus species kind of thing. Like an agency is a business, but a business isn't necessarily an agency. I guess
Okay.
like, I mean, maybe like starting a business selling products versus like services. Do you think that's what the question means?
Maybe. I'm not exactly
Maybe.
sure. Maybe they just aren't really sure. Maybe let's talk about the inherent difference between an agency and a business.
I think a business
Or
could
what
be,
makes an
yeah.
agency?
When I think agency, especially in the
Mhm.
WordPress space and the web dev space, I imagine that you build websites for organizations, versus like the product space where it's like I build plugins and sell them. Or I have a service like a WordPress monitoring service, like you're selling a service for a set price. Or I'm a hosting company, right? I'm like providing like a service and you're paying for that. Or I'm selling a plugin, or I'm selling software, or whatever it is. An agency, you have clients that you go through a discovery process with them. You have a design process, and you create a custom product for them.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And this might not be necessarily correct, but I always thought of an agency too as, you have different departments within so you have maybe a team of designers, a team of developers, SEO people, social media people, and a client could build, a kind of a la carte, pick the services that they
Right.
need for their business. Whereas a regular business or not an agency is kind of like, here's what we sell, do you want it or not? Sort of a thing.
Right.
Cool. Okay. So maybe that was probably a good question to start off on. It's like, what are we actually thinking of when we're thinking of the agency that you built? It's not just a business, it's specifically an agency. Awesome.
Right. And we also have plugins, though. We do sell plugins as well, but that's a very small percentage of our overall business.
Right. What are the I didn't know that. What are the plugins that you sell? What do they do?
We have our two most popular plugins. One is a MailChimp plugin, and the other one is a WooCommerce plugin. And each one of those plugins has over 100,000 active installs. So,
Nice.
I'm like talking about diversity, a lot of, agencies in the WordPress space and businesses, there isn't a ton of diversity. So another, thing that I'm proud of is that as a women and queer-owned agency, we have, two plugins that are in the top, like, within the top, like, 19 pages of the most popular plugins, pages if you browse through them, which I do obsessively all the time. So we have free versions of those, and the WooCommerce one has a pro version, so it's just a free and a pro, and the MailChimp one has add-ons.
Wonderful. That's awesome. I'm gonna go look through and find it. See if I've ever used it before. I might have used it and not have realized.
Maybe.
Alrighty. Question number 2. So we're diving right now into the diversity portion of this topic. And this is a question that I've heard a bajillion times, and I'm always really interested in hearing how other people answer it. How do you prioritize diversity when you're hiring for your agency without tokenizing people? So without just saying, you are queer, I'm going to hire you, or you're a woman, I'm going to hire you, but still prioritizing the fact that you want that sort of amalgam of different kinds of people.
I think the concept of a diversity hire is a myth. I think it's something that is used to prevent people from seeing the real value of diversity, because that's the tokenization, thinking, oh, well, I need a diversity hire for the optics, or, the concept of diversity hire in general, because if your company is all the same type of person, you are at a disadvantage from a diverse company, because research proves that diversity is good for profit, is good for productivity and problem solving. So if you have all the same kind of person at your agency, you're not doing as well as you can. So the thought of, oh, well, I'm just going to hire this person just because they're X, Y, and Z is false.
Right.
Because you're hiring to make your company better, to build a better team, right? So the mindset that for some reason, and this is what really, I think what people need to wrap their heads around most, the mindset that the most valued person you can hire is a cis white guy, whereas everyone else, there's some question as to their merit, right? It's like everyone else is judged on a different scale than what is seen as, you know, the guy with the beard and the glasses to being the most valuable developer. And that's where it's wrong.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So you have to get that diversity hire thing out of your head, and you have to hire on merit, because we do not, meritocracy is an absolute myth.
So the follow-up question that I would always get to this, and I'll pose it to you, you know, say hypothetically, right? You are hiring for one position, and you have that straight cis white guy applying, and you have you know, a queer African American disabled woman applying, just to throw all those boxes, check all those boxes off, right? And they have the same exact or very comparable background, very comparable skill set, and it's down to these two. Do you say, how do you approach that?
The person who brings more diversity to your organization brings more value. That's it. It's like if the skill set is, you know, comparable, but, you know, hiring the person that looks like everybody else at your company actually hurts your company, because it hurts, you know, because all the research shows that diverse teams just do a better job. And you can, you know, it only makes your team more high performing. So that's what you have to look at. You have to look at your overall team and the value of having, you know, a wide range of folks on your team.
Yeah. Love that. I totally agree. Especially I feel like in software, or in the world where we work, where it is a lot of problem solving. And so if you have people from different backgrounds coming at one problem with different perspectives, yeah, way better for that.
And you know, some folks have the life perspective that other folks don't. And so they're thinking of problems that wouldn't even occur to other people. And that's how you run into problems. You know, when you have a homogenous team of folks making a product that's supposed to be used by everyone in the world, but they don't, you know, the team who made it does not reflect like reality, then you run into all kinds of problems. I mean, it's, you know, historically happened over and over again. Like the, you know, like the air blowers that don't like recognize like different skin pigmentations, things like that. It's like you're setting yourself up for failure with a homogenous team of folks.
Yeah, I think that every time we get something where, you know, a company releases something and it has a name that, you know, maybe means something to a particular subculture.
Right.
And it's like, did you not have any, you know, of this type of person on your team to say, hey, that's like something really inappropriate. Maybe you shouldn't do that, you know? And
that is a perfect
funny.
Example.
Yeah, it's funny when you think about it, but if you think about it a little too hard, it's like, that's actually really depressing, because this just completely happened in a vacuum and you had nobody to catch that. So yeah, that makes total sense, and it's definitely something people should keep in mind. Alrighty. So question number 3. When you're hiring or recruiting or looking for people to join your team, where do you go? Where do you recruit from in order to find a good pool of people to pick from?
To me, hiring is, you're always hiring. Like in life, moving your way through life, your networks, events, folks you stumble upon, someone who reaches out to you randomly, like here and there, like you're always hiring. I'm always filing connections away in my mind. And some of the, you know, best hires are folks that I've reached out to later at a later date, who expressed interest in us or what we do, or, you know, somehow like, you know, our company clicked with them in some way. But I would say the way not to do it is the same old ways that we always do it. So you make you put a call out on Twitter, you put out your, your job page on your website and think that people are just going to come to you, and then wonder, well, where, I'd hire women if there were any, if any applied, So for me, it's like networking and making real, sincere connections with folks and putting yourself in situations where you're just around a wide, diverse group of folks. Mm-hmm. So like here in Philadelphia, we have different organizations that have like diverse tech, of different kinds. We started a group called Tech in Color years ago. And we've had Philly Tech Week is an event that happens in Philadelphia once a year. It was kind of virtual this year, so it was a little, not the same thing, but that organization, we put on different events. Like we had speed mentoring, we had one event, our last event was dedicated to accessibility. And just, if you don't see the groups that the groups available in your area, make one, create one, and it's just so beneficial to everybody because you network, you get to know other diverse folks in the tech industry in your area. Then you also just get to make friends and you make more connections. And that's where you have this, people think there's a pipeline problem. I refuse to believe there's a pipeline problem. Women make up 51% of the population. And
describe really quickly for me, just in case there's anybody watching who when they hear that the pipeline problem, what exactly does that is that thought process? What does that mean when people say that there's a pipeline problem?
People think that there aren't any diverse candidates out there. They think that there are not enough qualified people from marginalized communities that they could hire for XYZ position. And I refuse to believe that because, if you put women and all marginalized folks all together, we're the majority of the population. I refuse to believe that, the folks aren't out there. I think that we're just led to believe that other folks are more valuable and they're the default for a developer. So you have to work harder, but in a way it's not like really working hard. You just need to expand your networks because we're, especially in the WordPress community. I mean, I love the WordPress community, don't get me wrong, but we are kind of like very narrowly focused. And just expanding that world and also getting more people involved. That's how you find folks because people may not, we think that the WordPress community is all, interconnected and we're all on Twitter together and we know who we all are, but there are a lot of people who work on WordPress who are not part of the community. They just don't know that it exists. They've never been to a WordCamp. They aren't on Twitter at all, but they're doing their thing and they're talented and can be like, and can have the skills and what it takes to be an amazing WordPress developer, but they just don't have opportunity.
So I kind of what I'm hearing and what I believe is, one of the first steps you have to take is consciously stepping outside of your own sort of network and sphere of influence and the people that you hang out with all the time. And because that's so common, I feel like, of people just kind of hire their friends. It's like, oh, I know your experience, I know your background, I know your skills, come work with me or come work for me or come join this thing. And that's how we end up with these just like ever cycling environments of the same sorts of people. So to answer that question, I feel like the first thing is go outside, right? Go out into other places, which for some people can be kind of scary, but it's like, if you're gonna network and hire, you gotta take that step out into the world and meet people.
Right. I think a lot of people are scared to be, to go to an event with people who are not like them. And we all have opportunities to do this, right? Like, even though if you're used to being the only whatever in any kind of crowd, like I'm usually the only biracial lesbian in like many, worlds that I navigate. But think of ways in which you're in other ways that you're the majority. So let's say you went to an event that was, like a open captioned movie where you were one of the only hearing folks there, like in a with around deaf and hard of hearing folks. It's like there are other ways in which you can be the minority in ways that you're usually the majority. And it's like not just there to be to I don't know, to say that you've done it, but like to actually make sincere, real connections with people. And there are environments where this is encouraged, like diverse chambers of commerce, right? Here in Philly, we have African-American, Asian, Latinx chambers of commerce, and LGBT as well. People want to meet people who they want to do business with. You are welcome to come to these networking events. People won't think like you don't belong here, you shouldn't be here. They want you to come. They want to make business connections. Other networking events like that are also like, safe spaces where you can be the minority and you can, have a bigger network circle. And
So that's another...
not like a people collector in a people collector kind of way, but in a make sincere connections with folks and find ways where you can both help each other.
So that's another question that I've gotten before as a follow-up to this same one is, I've had men say, if there's an all women's tech event or something, I feel like I can't go. I feel like I'm not welcome. I feel like I don't want to take up space where, women should be able to, XYZ, which I can appreciate from an objective standpoint. Do you believe that mindset is incorrect? Does it maybe depend on the event and on the circumstance?
I think it absolutely depends. Like definitely if it's sort of a supportive, situation where, you're there to support one another and I guess, have the space to complain, and support each other. But if you're having an open event, like maybe it's a talk or a workshop or something else that is publicly advertised, like, if you were to have an event that was part of a bigger event like Philly Tech Week or a citywide like tech festival or something, then I think it's okay to go to an event like that where it's being promoted, where they want to have attendees, where they want people to come.
That makes total sense. We have a couple more people saying hi in the chat. Emmanuel Joseph says, good job, Tracy. Way to go. We have somebody named Fine Show that says, hi, Mom.
Oh, my goodness. Bean, that's my child.
I kind of figured so.
Because they said, I was hi, doing Mom. This.
And then I didn't acknowledge them. And they said, hi, Mom, again in all caps. So they really wanted to say
okay. Hi, Bean.
Hi.
Do your homework. Just kidding.
That's so awesome that they're watching. You're a great influence.
I don't even know how they got hold of the link.
You have a spy in your midst. Alrighty, let's look at question 4, which I think is a super interesting one. What ways has the pandemic made it easier to find and connect with diverse talent? Has there been any challenges that it's created instead?
It's definitely been challenging because I'm a, get out there and network kind of person. Because I like being out in the world in general. And we just we just hired a couple folks. So, and, during the pandemic, it has been challenging. But actually one resource that has been really helpful is B Corp has a job listing, like a job board. And the really nice thing about it is that it's anonymized. Which and name bias is, we have to get to this at some point because name bias is huge. And I think it's one of the biggest barriers for marginalized folks to get into tech. But that aside, so they have a job board, which has been really awesome. And it attracts folks who want to work for B Corps, which is usually a good fit with us.
What is a B Corp?
The B Corporation, the certification system for sustainable businesses.
Got it. Very cool. You just mentioned a little bit about name bias. Can you touch on that a little bit? What that means, maybe how if somebody's looking to hire and they don't want to be influenced by name bias, maybe what they can do or places they can go?
Sure. So name bias is when people see a person's name, assume something about them, and then, have all this unconscious bias about the person because of their name. And research shows that it is absolutely a thing. There was a study done where they took ads in the Chicago Tribune, and it was like job postings. I'm sorry, reverse. Had too much caffeine today. They went through the Chicago Tribune and they sent fake resumes to different job listings. All the resumes were identical, except some had white sounding names and some had African American sounding names. And we all know what the results were. The fake white candidates with the exact same qualifications were called in for more interviews. And then what they did was they made the resumes with the African-American sounding names even higher in quality. So they made them overqualified for the jobs they're applying for. And it only resulted in like 3% more interviews.
Wow.
Yeah. And they did another study with STEM professors. They sent out fake resumes to STEM professors throughout the United States. And they were asked to rate the quality of the candidate. Would they hire them? What would they, salary would they offer them if they hired them? And once again, all the resumes were the same, except half were named John and the other half were named Jennifer. Jennifer got fewer offers. And if she did get an offer, she got like less salary than John.
Wow.
So this is another reason I believe the people are out there, but because of unconscious bias, they don't even make it past the first round.
Yeah.
And another thing that I noticed from the B Corp job listings and having gone through the experience of just having, done some hiring, when you look at the job listings, they're all like, they have like a little bar of like how qualified the person is for the job that you posted. And it's it's self-assessment. So I had two candidates that I asked, we did Zoom interviews with. One was a woman and her self-assessment was like in the red. And one was a guy and his self-assessment was like not all the way green, but like, up there. The woman was so much more qualified than the guy, like different planets. And it really upsets me that marginalized people rate themselves as underqualified when they're probably, perfectly or even overqualified for a job.
Yeah.
So as a hiring manager, let's say I'm a hiring manager and all I'm doing is looking at that list and I'm just, going like reject, reject, reject anybody who doesn't meet a certain threshold. I am missing out on like so many talented people because they are self-assessing themselves too low.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, somebody mediocre may be like, I'm the greatest, and I'm going to waste my time, interviewing that person.
Yeah.
So that's another thing that you have to fight, imposter syndrome. And I think all of us marginalized folks, we need to, ask for what we're worth. We need to realize like that we are qualified, we are talented just because society judges us, much more harshly than other folks. We are awesome, we're qualified, we're talented, and we need to demand, what we're worth.
100% agree. Amy Letson in the comments says classic story. Ebony in the comments just says, I know. I know what that feels like. And I totally, all of that rings true so much. And I feel like a lot of people I've met and spoken to in the WordPress community who come from marginalized groups, I feel like everyone has that story of, I've done XYZ, I've done all of this stuff, but I constantly undercut myself and I constantly doubt myself and I constantly feel like I'm not enough. What do you think?
Yeah, the sad thing is that employers who are not enlightened and tuned in take advantage of this, right? Because they will work harder to keep their the certain people, like on their team, they'll offer them more bonuses, more salaries, like do what it takes to keep them, and just think that, well, all the marginalized folks they're lucky to have a job in the first place. I'm not going to work as hard.
Yeah.
And that, I find that upsetting as well, and completely unfair.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's absolutely something that, if you are watching this and you're somebody who is thinking about building an agency or hiring people, those are things you have to keep in mind of, the idea that you can just compare two people, apples to apples. Yeah, in a way, but sometimes you might have to look at one person and say, okay, this person is pushing through more barriers maybe than this other person does. They have a lower starting point to the race maybe than this other person does. And I think that to me personally, that's really important, of being aware and being in tune without then going too far and like deciding to pity that person. Or I think that's where we get this idea of like, well, I don't want to tokenize that person because you've already decided you feel badly for them based on what they're going through, and it kind of creates this weird cycle. So yeah, all of this is really, really valuable to understand about yourself if you're a marginalized person, but also about marginalized people if you are not one.
I want to strive for a true meritocracy. I want people hired on skills, hired on qualifications, and then rewarded, like when they do a good job.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard. We all have unconscious bias, all of us, right? And it's not something to beat ourselves up about, but it's something to be conscious of and to fight every day.
Absolutely. So this actually kind of leads into the next question, question 5. What are some ways that you support, let's say, support diversity after hiring? We can talk about that, but I'm also interested in how you support the diverse people on your team after hiring. So like I remember in just reading and research that I've done, I remember coming across an article that argued, it's not enough to hire a really diverse and awesome team. Your culture and the way that people move through the environment that you've created for them, whether that's a remote environment or a physical environment, has to keep all of those things in mind. So at your agency, how do you keep these people in the long term and make them feel included in everything moving forward after they've been hired?
Right. That's exactly, it's the inclusion piece. Like you can have diversity, but it's not going to last if you don't also have inclusion. So I always think of inclusion as like, do I need to alter like a part of myself that other people don't have to? So let's think of like, in a gay way, like if I worked at a company and I have my straight, like, coworkers have pictures of their partners on their desk, do I feel comfortable having a picture of my partner on my desk? If the answer is no, then there's a problem. If I have to go into work and like not talk about a certain part of my life, where other people don't have that, don't even think about it, then that's not inclusive. So those are things I think about. Like I think about that in my position, like, okay, well, how is it for other people? Like, let's say, and I know what the feeling is like to go into like a place that's like mostly straight when something just horrible happened. Like a law just got passed that really knocked the queer community back. And you go somewhere and like, nobody cares. Oh, everything's great. And so I think about like when something awful happens to, whatever marginalized community, I don't want people to think that they have to act like business as usual. If you need to take a personal day, if you want to talk about it, don't want to talk about it, like that is welcome here, because it is not fair for you to have to like act like business as usual and like nothing happened just because it isn't affecting the people around you directly. But
and that is,
sorry.
I just wanted to add, if there's listening out there, if there's any doubt in your mind to that has been proven. I just the other day I was listening to NPR, and there was this study that basically showed this woman looked at patent registries from the last like 200 years, and she did a graph of how many African American people in the United States filed for patents between, I think, 1870 and like 1950. Every time there was an instance of intense violence against African Americans in the United States, when lynchings went up or when certain laws were passed, the number of patent registries dropped every time to zero and then climbed back up again over time. And every time there was a hit to the mental and emotional state of that community, people were less creative. They were more fearful. They felt devalued. And so it was this idea of like, well, if my life is not valued, why would my intellectual property be valued and protected? And it had this complete ripple effect into the production of new inventions in the country. And it made me think a lot about, like, similar to what you were just saying, if somebody comes in and they are just reeling from this mental emotional pain of something that just happened, at the most selfish level on your end, right, they're not going to be productive. They're not going to be able to work, to be creative, to think critically. They're not all here. And so it makes sense, right, to give them that time to recover from whatever that might be.
You should.
So yeah, sorry to derail, but
it's not derailing at all.
It completely brought me back to that study, which absolutely proved the value in, I mean, that study proved a lot of other things as well, not so great things, but it makes total sense to me.
Right. No one should be expected to act like it's business as usual when something devastating has happened in their community. But more on inclusion, I actually have some information from Harvard Business Review did a study and found that there are 4 factors that drive inclusion. So here's a little facts, like in addition to, stuff that we do here. You need inclusive leaders. So you need people in leadership positions who will listen to you, receive your feedback, implement your changes when you have a good idea, like that sounds great, let's do it. Like if you feel like you're just there as the diversity hire, if you make someone feel like a diversity hire, they're not going to stay, so you need like leadership that's going to, and I think this across the board, just like you need to listen to people and know that you don't know it all, and be open to new ideas. And then when somebody has a good idea, then incorporate those ideas, and then reward people for new and awesome ideas. Authenticity, that's the piece that we were just talking about. Like, can you be your authentic self at work? Networking and visibility. So, making sure that there's mentorship, guidance, feedback given by senior employees in order to improve job performance and progress. So making sure that mentorship is given equally to everyone. Like if someone is given mentorship and like climbing the ladder at work, where some people aren't given as much mentorship, that's no good. And then clear career paths. Like, so is there a game that needs to be played to get to the top that diverse folks just can't play?
Right.
It's like, oh, well, I need to do these things in order to progress at my job, but I can't even do those things. Like some, like, I don't know, I have to play golf with the boss or something. I'm not making this up, but like, it's like, make sure that like everybody has equal opportunity, equally listened to, and given, that mentorship.
I feel like that's very common at companies where you kind of have that boys club where it's like, all right, well, the boss is going out for drinks and going to a strip club, and, who wants to come? And, if you're a woman, you're probably like, some women may be totally into that, but I feel like your general woman probably won't be. So then all the guys go off and all the guys get to be in the boss's ear, and you have this section of people that are not. that bizarrely happens at video game development companies a lot.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and I believe there's a direct correlation between that mentality and why women in video games tend to look the way that they do. That could be a whole other
Right.
enormous
You need
conversation.
a guest for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think also as a business development, like, in terms of owners and, getting new clients, new contracts, there's also a game there that as queer women, like, I feel sometimes we can't play that game. Like, I can't imagine like schmoozing somebody, over whiskey, like, or golf, or like you said, strip club. It's like, that's just not, it's not when I'm not willing to do it. And also we're just kind of not in that world, right? Like,
Yeah.
as women and queer women. So this is why I believe that marginalized people need to start their own businesses. We need to change the way the game is played, because it's like I'm so tired of like this mentality that like, okay, well, these dudes in power need to somehow become enlightened and then I'll invite us all to the table, right? We need to build our own tables. We need to create the meritocracy, that should exist. And I think the more marginalized folks start their own businesses and mentor each other and bring each other up, the better it'll be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't tell you, when I joined the team at WP Buffs in the spring, I've never worked for another Black person before. And it's life-changing. It's game-changing to work for somebody who understands that facet of who I am. It doesn't define me, but it's a large part of who I am, what I look like. And so working for another person who just inherently gets it, I don't have to explain myself.
Right.
I didn't have to ask for a day off. Or I did, but like when I wanted to go to a Black Lives Matter rally, I didn't have to defend that decision. I just had to say, this is what I'm doing. And he's like, go, So makes total sense. We seem to have a plant in the comment section. Ebony says, as a marginalized person working at Tracy's agency, one thing I have at this workplace that I've never had at any other is for her and Mia to consistently ask me, what are your thoughts, Ebony? It's super nice to feel heard, and I love being in this space.
Aww.
So that is quite a case study right there that you got.
She trolling me by trying to make me cry.
Like, maybe. She's a wily one. All right, let's go into the next question, which actually
I guess just like a little bit on, like, I think one thing I've tried to really learn to do as a boss is stop saying we. Like, oh, so we did that for you. We did that for you. Like, even, in the most mundane of like email conversations, I'm like, Ebony did that thing. Ebony fixed that bug. Jamie did this thing. Like, Chris did that thing, instead of saying we, because, people need credit. And I don't want to assume, credit for something I didn't personally do. And I think it's important for people to know that they're valued and know that, like, this is the person that fixed your problem.
Yeah, that is a fantastic actionable tip. If you are that straight, cis white man, and you have a company or an agency and you have other folks that work with you or work for you, I think that is a fantastic way to stand up for them and to support them because I've worked for cis white men before, and I've had that thing where they kind of inadvertently take credit for something I've done because it's their company, and it's not done on purpose. It's not, he's not twirling his mustache and saying, I'm going to screw her over. It's an inadvertent thing that we sometimes do. And so if you are right now looking for ways to really show up for the people that work with you and give them that support, that is a very easy thing that you can start doing is naming them, giving them their names back when you're speaking to your clients, right? Because it sucks when a client just, sees that one white male face and they're not seeing all of the other people that are doing all of the actual work, Right. That really sucks. So I love that you do that.
I try.
Emmanuel Joseph says, so that is actually another question. So I will add that below the next question that we have. We will get to that Joseph in just a moment. So the next question that we have, which came from Amy, do you have any additional reflections on running the business during a pandemic?
Gosh, just general. Well,
Yeah.
we're a rare WordPress agency in that we have an office that people come to. And I mean, and that's also a part of the diversity piece for me, because we live in Philadelphia, you know, one of the most diverse cities in the US. And to think that I'd have to be the only way to go to remote is like, it's preventing me from looking in our own backyard for talent. And, you know, it's like, I want to put the work into finding like diverse talent here, or, you know, in the surrounding areas. So anyway, that's a side thing. But so that's been an adjustment. Since we have an office of folks who come into work, I think it's been hard for all of us to be siloed at home. I know I'm an extrovert, and I like, you know, I love coming to work. I don't like working from home. And actually, me and I are coming into the office just by ourselves. We're the only ones. I like leaving my house and going to work, and then working, and coming home and not working. So that's been challenging. Of course, I mean, everyone is able to work at home for any reason, or you have like a work from home day of the week. But honestly, for whatever reason you need to work remotely, that, you know, that's fine with us. So we already had everything set up to do that, but but you know, it has been challenging, because we also have, you know, varying levels of skill here, and we really like for people more senior to train people more junior, and that's been more challenging, not being in the same room together. Not impossible, of course, but just, I don't know, the ability to communicate with each other, and then, like, you know, pair programming, I guess, like show people like, oh, this is how you do it, and having to do all this over Zoom. And then
I mean, any teacher right now will tell you teaching remotely entirely is very difficult. You learn better when you're right there and can ask those questions.
Right. So that's been a challenge, but I think, you know, we're surviving, and we've taken advantage of the time. We got the floors redone, and we got new, like, cool desks for everybody. And we got the walls repainted. So whenever we are able to open safely again, whenever that will be, we'll be ready.
Yeah. I will say it's kind of nice to see that a lot of our industry is not as affected as other industries. Like, I think we should all kind of count ourselves very lucky that given that we just work in the internet, you know, we were kind of set up for this anyway.
I have friends who are stylists who you know, people who work in museums. It's like they are suffering. People in the restaurant industry, it's like, you know, I count myself very, very lucky that the type of business that we have can still keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really glad to hear that. All right, we have time for one more question. It comes from Emmanuel, and he asked, I believe what he's asking is, what can Black people outside of the US do? I think he means to get work in the US. I personally have been feeling unqualified or underqualified, maybe. So Tracy, I know that you are not a hiring manager, or, you know, things like that may not be specifically your specialty, but I guess maybe we can look at this question as, when you are looking at hiring somebody, or maybe, I guess, somebody who is feeling underqualified, when they go to apply for a job, what are the things that they should really focus on to prove to themselves and the person looking at that application that they are indeed qualified?
I guess, like, I mean, I'm me, but when you know, when you can get my attention with a really enthusiastic cover letter, I have to say, you know, and then, and also the qualities that I look for, I'm not looking for the ninja rock star developer. I'm looking for somebody who does have a talent in, you know, for programming, whatever that may be, front end, back end, like whatever part of like web development, they are focused on, and a willingness to learn, and like a hunger to learn more.
Yeah.
Those are the things I look for in a person. Someone who is, good with communication, someone who is responsive, someone who is a good, works well with other folks and is supportive of other folks, and doesn't think they know it all.
Yeah.
Honestly, those are the qualities I look for in a person. I look for like their potential, like where could they go? Like with the right support and skills, could this person just like take off and be an amazing developer? So with us, is showing that capacity is more important to me than being an out of the box ninja rock star.
Yeah.
I love that. We do have an apprenticeship program. Right now it's on pause because of the pandemic, but it's a paid program, and you could come in with no WordPress skills at all. But if you have a willingness to learn and all those other things that I mentioned, we will mentor you and give you the training necessary to, become a WordPress developer. We just want more WordPress developers in the world, right? And from that apprenticeship program, we have 2 current full-time employees.
Nice. I love that. Well, Emmanuel, I hope that touched on and answered your question, gave you a place to look. I know that also I've been starting at WP Buffs to kind of assist with the hiring processes, which has been really interesting for me to kind of learn how to do. And one of the first things that I've really been learning to look for and look at is if I want to find out information about you, how easy is it for me to do that? Like, I've maybe been recommended to somebody, and I'll go to their social media or their LinkedIn or their Twitter, and they have nothing. They don't say what it is they do. They don't have a link to a website. They don't have any other way for me to get in touch with them. And that's always to me sort of like, okay, well, there are other people on my list, I guess, that I can go look for. So I'll go look for those people. And it's always the people who have, what they do, why they do it, like right in their Twitter bio. Like those are the people that grab my attention, because I'm like, you know who you are, and you know how to communicate that to other people. So I really like what Tracy said about, that willingness to learn, right? You don't have to know everything, but you have to be willing to learn. And I think maybe if you're feeling, one thing that's helped me is when I'm feeling underqualified, I try to remember the things that I know how to do, the things that I know that I do well, even if it's just 1, 2, 3 things. And then all of the things that I would like to do that I know that I could learn how to do. So I feel like if you have those things in mind, the things that I can do really well and the things that I know that I can do really well, that prevents you from feeling like you have to make up all of these skills, right? To be like, yeah, I'm a rock star at this and that. But it also keeps in mind, like exactly what you were saying, what your potential is. And yeah, I think displaying those things, like you said, good communication, right, is being able to communicate all that information to somebody who might be looking for you. Because you can be standing in front of the perfect person for you, and if you can't see anything about who they are, then what do you do? So yeah, I hope that together our combined opinions kind of helped you with that. So we are at the end of our time, unfortunately. So we're going to go ahead and stop there. But thank you so much to everyone who hung out in the comments with us and who sent us questions. This was the most active comment section in a video yet, which is amazing.
Oh, wow, cool. Nice.
Yeah.
It was my kid trolling up the comments.
I appreciate it. I definitely do. Yeah, Tracy, thank you so much for sharing your part of your Wednesday afternoon with us.
You're welcome.
Oh, Jamie says, such great information. Thank you, Tracy and Allie. You are welcome. Thank you for being here with us. Tracy, if people would like to learn more about you, your agency, where can they find you? Where can they best get in touch with you?
Well, our website is yikesinc.com, YKESINC, and I forgot to mention that we are a WordPress VIP agency, which another thing I'm very proud of. Like, we are the first, and I think still the only certified women-owned, certified LGBT-owned VIP agency in the world. And if you want to check me out on Twitter, my personal account is Lil Jimmy, LILJIMMI.
Nice. Wonderful. Alrighty, so I'll make sure to add those links to the description. So if you're watching and you just want those, grab those quick links to go find Tracy, you can definitely do that. And before we sign off for real, it is time to pick our weekly random giveaway winner. So this week our winner is Mario. Congratulations, Mario. I will email you at the email address that you provided for us so that you can go ahead and grab your prize. And yeah, we will see everyone next week. Make sure you go to wpbuffs.com/WP-AMA-series. Sign up there to get early access to who the next speaker is. You can submit your questions first. We do meet every Wednesday here on the WP Buffs YouTube channel. So if you subscribe to this channel, you'll get alerted of when our next session is scheduled for. And if you want to find out any more about us, go to wpbuffs.com. Find us on social media, WP Buffs, basically everything. So that is all, folks, and have a fantastic rest of your day. Ready.